So hi everyone. My name is Anna Goldberg. I am a student in PS121, and today I'm here with my sister Emily. Emily works as a volunteer in an elementary school, working with a special education class, and one of her students has DMD. So today she's going to talk about the environment this kid is in, and then especially just like different learning adaptations for this child, and then just kind of what a normal day looks like for him in the classroom. So Emily, I'll start off with my first question. So it's just kind of like the classroom makeup that this child's in, just to like get a sense of like the classroom demographic.
Totally. So we have a total of 8 students in our classroom, and they are in grades 3 through 5. So there's a pretty even distribution amongst those 3 grades. And we have 3 students who have muscular dystrophy, and then one of those students does have DMD, as well as some other associated learning disabilities like autism and intellectual disabilities.
All right, perfect. And then what are some like specific adaptations you have for this student with DMD?
Yeah, so for a student with DMD, we use 2 main adaptations. The first one is PECS, which stands for Picture Exchange Communication Systems. And this basically looks like allowing him to use these tools. So it's basically like little pictures on specific cards of different answers, as well as like demands, and questions and things like that. That he can use in order to communicate, because he can't communicate verbally, and we find that he is able to more gesture in the general direction of the card rather than just like actually point or touch, but it still really gets the communication across pretty well. And then the second one that we use for him is a token system. And for him, he's working towards iPad time. So basically, with this one, he will, when he does something well and he like uses his PEC successfully, or like, engages in appropriate behavior in the classroom, he'll receive a token. And then once he receives 5 tokens, he'll get that reward of the iPad time, which has been really effective for him. Then finally, as I'm sure you guys have talked about, commonly students with DMD will use a wheelchair. So he also has a wheelchair. One specific adaptation for him is that he also has that foot strap in his wheelchair, basically just to make sure that his feet stay in place, because he has minimal control over the lower half of his body, and that they're not going to get in the way.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome to hear you explain that. So what kind of is like how would you like start a day? So like what's like the way you'd start a day in your classroom, and like I don't know, different adaptations you make for this child with DMD?
Totally. So we open every day with a kind of a group activity. So we have calendar time that just includes like different songs, different like pattern identification and lesson plans and things like that. And that just really allows, especially our kid with DMD, to engage in really meaningful but like different ways. Like we'll see him with like the songs. He might not be singing along with some of the other students, but he's definitely like nodding his head or like getting into the rhythm and like those types of things. And he kind of knows what's coming up next. And that, yeah, we start the day with calendar time. So you can really tell that, while he might not be doing like the specific, like identifying the pattern, he knows what's coming and he's able to communicate that in his own unique way.
Yeah, so like what's kind of like a skill you would do with the kids? I remember I think you mentioned to me you guys do like skills that would resemble writing, or like kind of working towards, even though like this kid would lack the motor skills to be able to actually write, just kind of like how would you supplement being able to write with something else?
Totally. So, writing we work on every single day for all of our kids. Specifically, our kid with DMD, though, we work on a couple different goals in his IEP. So we work specifically on coloring, but the cool thing is that the coloring has some like letter starters, we call them. So, like for example, you might be drawing a picture, but it has some like letter starters of like lines. So learning to start drawing your lines for like a D or a P, things like that. So that's a really great way. And then we also use these like specific crayons for him, because he doesn't have those fine motor skills to really like grasp crayon in like a traditional sense. He's able to more clutch onto it, and that allows him to still be like an independent writer or when he's drawing, but sort of a good way to adapt and change our lesson for him.
Alrighty. And then in class, we kind of learned about like making sure to have like a fine balance of physical activity, because too much can stress the muscles, whereas too little is also not beneficial. So kind of like how do you guys like incorporate physical activity into the day while also keeping in mind his really specific physical limitations?
Totally. So all the kids go to PE at least a couple times a week. So that's been really great. So he When he goes to PE, he'll have two physical therapists come in who work specifically with students who have muscular dystrophy, as well as a couple other physical disabilities at our school. So they'll come in and they'll work with him on a couple specific things. One of them is like throwing and catching a ball, just sort of like a rubber bouncy ball. Kind of cool. He's able to sort of toss the ball, and then when he catches it, he doesn't catch it in like a traditional sense in two hands. So we'll like clutch it against his body, but he's still really working towards those skills and kind of working on some of those good motor skills that are getting better, as well as also just like the PE teacher is really excellent at incorporating inclusive games. So working with students in ways that they're able to show their abilities. So for him specifically, doing different like passing games and things like that, he's able to participate in. So sort of like you said, Anna, balancing that, hey, he has these really awesome abilities and he's still able to do these really cool things. So making sure that he's able to do that without, overstressing him and making him do too much.
Alrighty. And then kind of circling back a little bit. So along with like writing, I'm sure you guys like try to do some reading exercises, kind of like what would that look like?
Totally, yeah. So we also do reading every day. And right now he's working on sight words. So a kid with DMD is working on that. One of the biggest things for him that's a struggle with reading is that he can't physically like pick up a book right now. So we either have to like hold up flashcards or the book, whatever we're using that day, or just set it on the table. And then he will need assistance with like flipping pages and things like that. He's really good at like um, touching things. So like with the iPad, he's able to touch it, but not so much with the like flipping pages and a little bit more advanced fine motor skills like that.
Gotcha. All right. And then I just have like one more question because I feel like we've covered like physical activity, like different learning activities during the day and stuff. Like, what does like lunch look like for you guys? Like, 'cause I'm sure like eating would be a struggle for somebody who lacks like a lot of motor skills.
Yeah, totally. So we're really lucky in that all students who are in special education programs stay in the classroom. So he's able to get that extra assistance in the classroom as well as being surrounded by his peers and those people that he sees every day. So I think that's really excellent in terms of continuing those social interactions for him. But unfortunately, he is unable to eat independently. So we do have to have somebody there assisting him with, getting what he needs, as well as like, actively feeding him the food. He is able to kind of pick up some like bigger chunks of things sometimes, but that's kind of inconsistent. And then sometimes like he'll miss his mouth or, it'll spill out a little bit. So definitely needs sort of full on attention during food time. So that's still kind of a
Yeah.
struggle for him a little.
Yeah. And then one last question, kind of to your point about social interaction. Do you feel like he's still able to get like pretty suitable social interaction and whatnot?
Yeah, that's a great question. So he's definitely able to enjoy his surroundings and enjoy those who are with him, but you very rarely see him like hanging out one on one with another individual. But when the group is doing a song or the group is doing like a game, we are really excellent, I think, as like a staff at incorporating everybody, and I can tell that he's enjoying it through his body language and through like screams of excitement and things like.
All right, that's good because yeah, we definitely learned about like the importance of having like a solid community in terms of like care and whatnot. So yeah, that's the end of all my questions. Thank you so much, Emily, for taking the time to do this and answer questions I had about like what it would look like for a student in the DMD in like a classroom.
Totally, not a problem at all. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, bye everybody.